Hello, everybody. All right. So, with that, welcome to the Mikestand, everybody. We're, of course, middle of the week, which means, of course, it's Hump Day, as in getting over the hump. Um, so, hopefully, everybody's having a good week. If you haven't already, of course, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That would be appreciated. Also, if anything we talk about tonight grabs your attention, feel free to comment and/or ask questions. We'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. So, Rick, do you want to do an intro? Maybe share a link. You know the shtick, right?
Yeah, I know the shtick. I should have brought up my YouTube, but I didn't. But most people here know me. If not, of course, you can ask where to reach. Well, you can reach me on my channel or on Twitter, Cross Comics. But if you're not sure where that is exactly to find it, just say something in the chat, and I will um, get back to you on that. I'll go find a link. I just don't want to right now. I don't want to mess up anything.
Right, that's understandable. Well, with that, actually, even before I get into a bit of so tonight, of course, we do have one news article we'll go over from Bleeding Fool, um, and apparently there are some comic creators and cartoonists who are demanding the release of Israeli hostages. So we're gonna look at that story. We'll of course have the wrestling wrap up as well as this day in each history. But even before we get into all that, so I was watching Tune. You probably heard me promoting this quite a bit last night. On last night's show. So today, Tune In with Me was talking about some of the voice actors behind some of our favorite cartoon characters growing up from the golden age of, and they did actually have a couple of voice actors on there. Uh, One guy, Eric Bauza from Toronto, he's a Canadian actor, voice actor. You could kind of call him the modern day Mel Blanc, as he's pretty much today taken over a number of roles that were initially voiced by Mel Blanc, including a number of the Looney Tunes characters, as well as Woody Woodpecker, who, for those who may not know, for the first three shorts for his first three shorts, Woody was voiced by Mel Blanc. And after going through a couple other voice actors, from, let's say, throughout the 40s, by the time 1950 came around, from 1950 to 1972, there was Grace Stafford, who was the voice of Woody. Well, Eric Bauza is now, of course, doing Woody's voice as well as a number of Looney Tunes characters, and Mona Marshall, who I know you guys probably don't know the name, but you'd probably know the voice more. Of course, she's had a number of guest voice work on a number of cartoons, including the G1 Transformers cartoon. Um, so, so that So, anyways, um,
Oh, that sounds like
right,
it would have been fun to watch.
huh?
I said that sounds like it would have been fun to watch.
Well, my only criticism, which with it in this particular case, yeah, getting to see the two voice actors and hear stuff from them was cool and stuff like that. But Tune In With Me is a compilation. Now, granted, they have the rights to Warner Brothers stuff, MGM, Warner Brothers, Looney Tunes, Melodies, MGM, which is like Tom and Jerry and that family of cartoons, um, Universal, which is Woody Woodpecker, Walter Lantz stuff, and even Columbia, which is Charles Mint Studios, and then Paramount with primarily with the Betty Boop and Popeye cartoons. Um, The only thing is that they have a tendency to overdo. They sometimes, as was the case today, with the 5 cartoons they chose to show, they did 4 Warner Brothers and 1 Universal. And they tend to overload on the Warner Brothers cartoons. There are a few times when they'll balance it out a little bit better, like maybe they might do 2, 2, 1 or whatever, or 2 and 3 or what have you,
Yeah.
or even 2,
Well,
1, 1, 1.
well,
But for the most part, they seem to always default to Warner
go
Brothers.
heavily Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be because and I'm not sure whether this would be an accurate assessment or not. Maybe that could be because there is more Warner Brothers cartoons out there than the other companies.
Well, I get that. I get that to a certain point, but you know, I get that to a certain point. But MGM had quite the Tom and Jerry, Tom and Jerry, Barney Bear, they had quite a few stuff. Walter Lantz had quite a few stuff that he did for Universal. So I mean, I'm just asking for I just want to be a little more balanced, not just saturate us with Warner Brothers. I get that, they can, that's my own.
It might also be what they have access to too. Maybe they have access to more Warner Brothers than the other companies. I don't know. I'm just trying to help you make sense of why they might be saturating in Warner Brothers and making it a little bit
Well,
more.
I don't need to understand I just think again they can balance it out more. They're just choosing not to. All right, because I get what you're saying. Like maybe it seems that way because maybe there are, and I get the possibility that, and I know they don't have all of Paramount stuff. They may not have all. Like they may only have Popeye and Betty Boop, but Paramount also distributed like a lot of the Harvey Toons stuff, like Casper the Friendly Ghost, Baby Huey, that stuff. But anyways, that's my only, I guess, downside to. I mean, the episode itself was pretty good. And here's balance out what in terms of what they show. And okay, so Tune In With Me is a compilation type show where they'll basically put together cartoons on MeTV, right? It's a compilation show. So in the hour time span that they schedule for the show, they basically can show 5 cartoons, and that in between, of course, other segments and stuff like that. Okay. What I'm saying is, a lot of times what they'll do is they tend to default more to the Warner Brothers cartoons in terms of like if you got like 5 spots to program, right? And okay, so like today they showed 4 Warner Brothers cartoons and 1 Universal. And they have the rights to Warner Brothers, MGM, Paramount, Columbia, and Universal. Okay, so the Warner Brothers, as you know, that's the Looney Tunes, Merry Melody stuff, Bugs Bunny, that set of characters. MGM, which is Tom and Jerry, Barney Bear, Droopy, Spike and Tyke. Universal, they're the ones that distribute the Walter Lantz produced stuff, which is like Woody Woodpecker, Chili Willy, Andy Panda. Paramount, which distributed like Popeye and Betty Boop. And there were some other companies there are other shorts that they did too, like the Harvey Tunes, but they don't have the rights to those, I don't think. And then Columbia, which was a little bit earlier, did like Crazy Cat and Oswald the Lucky Rabbit and all that. Basically the stuff that was done by Charles Mint Studios. But what I was just telling Rick here was that they have a tendency to default, with any extra like spots sometimes. they'll like seem to default more to Warner Brothers than anybody else. Even though now Rick made the point, and it could be true that there might be more Warner Brothers cartoons out there than there are the other stuff, which is partially true, granted, but there's still enough out there to where it could be more well balanced in terms of what they show on that show. That's what I'm basically saying there. But anyway, so that was a good opening discussion there. So and I did mention earlier, and I'll just first off, of course, let me just as a reminder, if you can, if you haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer questions to the best of our ability. So also tonight we're gonna go over one article from Bleeding Fool talking about how some comic creators and cartoonists are demanding for the release of Israeli hostages. Well, of course, I have the wrestling wrap up and the This Day in Each History segments as well. Let's see, and I did see Elk had a comment. What audience does TuneIn seem to be seeking? Well, TuneIn. Well, okay, TuneIn. Actually, it's spelled TOONI, and I guess it would be anybody who'd be doing classic cartoons, because Tune In With Me is a program on MeTV, which is basically a nostalgia type TV channel. A lot of stuff they have is a lot like what would be considered classic television. A lot of the stuff from like 60s, 70s, and 80s, and the cartoons they have are usually from the shorts catalog of like Warner Brothers, MGM, Universal, Paramount, and Columbia. So
No, the channel itself or the network itself is more into retro TV or classic TV, and I guess they're seeking the audience that's looking for classic shows or retro shows, depending on how you want to describe it.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's get ready to move on to the article here. So, and we got in a good 15-minute talk there to open things up there. So, anyways, let's get into this.
Probably primarily up, maybe even older, so middle-aged audience.
Well, middle-aged to older. I would say, I would basically say 40 and up, most likely. 40 and up, I would say. All right, so comic creators, cartoonists demand release of Israeli hostages. Article by Avi Green published earlier today. Something most remarkable was performed by quite a few comics contributors, old and new, who've had writing, art, editing credits on Batman over past years, as the Times of Israel reports. So, and this is from the article he's referencing here. 50 creators of the iconic Batman superhero character signed a petition urging the governments of Egypt and Qatar to press for the release of Yarden and Shiri Bibas, along with their two red-haired sons, Ariel and Kiefer. All four family members have been held hostage in Gaza since October 7th. The family was kidnapped from Nur Oz by Hamas terrorists on October 7th, a day that saw 3,000 terrorists infiltrate southern Israel to massacre 1,200 Israelis, most of them civilians, and kidnap 253 people into the Strip. Mother Shiri and her sons were captured separately from her husband Yarden. Okay, so Yarden and Shiri, Bebos is a family name, and then two red-haired sons, Ariel and Kiefer. Okay. One of the iconic images of the family that has been circulated since their captures shows the four wearing Batman apparel. Ariel 4 is a dedicated fan of the Gotham City Protector. The petition was sent to Egypt and Qatari ambassadors in Washington, D.C. on April 12th. The effort was organized by Dr. Raphael Medoff, historian director of the David S. Wyman Institute for Holocaust Studies. Quote, these comic creators have spent decades developing a hero who fights for the innocent and stands as a beacon of hope for his community. And we're trying to channel the spirit through this effort. Channel that spirit through this effort, unquote, Medoff told the Times of Israel. All right. So continuing on here. Some of the Bebos petition's high-profile signees include Mike Carlin, DC's head of animation, longtime DC publisher Paul Levitz, and former president of Warner Animation, Sander Schwartz. Now, Sander Schwartz, of course, that name should look somewhat familiar to you guys because his name was on, for those who grew up watching, like the 90s Warner Brothers stuff, like of course Batman the animated series, Superman the animated series, Animaniacs, Tiny Toons, all that stuff. His name was all over those. So over those.
Now, I must say I applaud these guys' effort, but and I get that I'd like to I didn't know that these people were being held hostage, and I'd like to see them freed, and maybe this shouldn't stop them from doing it. But I wonder what makes them think that these people are even going to listen to them, let alone look at their petition to release these hostages. Because, frankly, I think to them, the people that are holding these people, these comic creators are nobodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's government in action, believe it or not. It's like, but anyways, the petition was also signed by some of Batman's veteran writers, including Chip Zdarsky and Mark Waid, leading artists from the French. What was that?
I said, "Oh wow!" And actually, I'm a little bit surprised that they're in favor of, them saying about them being released, just because a lot of these people are on the left and they're not really for Israel.
Well, a lot of Hollywood isn't, but there are still some left-leaning Jewish people who are still faithful to their people. Okay,
True.
Maybe somebody like Chuck Schumer isn't. Okay, but there are still some people, who I mean, if you remember, because so what they're talking about, of course, that did make some news. What they were talking about with the October 7th attack, that did actually make the news quite a bit, and a number of Hollywood people, both on the right and the left, came out and were in support of Israel at that point. So, the people who are actually like Jewish or of Jewish descent, they would be more inclined to be, it's the non-Jewish people. It's more like the Iranians and the other Middle Eastern countries that you have to that have that issue. But
Uh, Elk saying it is very much an effort at influencing America. Liberal public opinion in favor of Israel, not. I think he means of
Hamas,
Hamas, not at Hamas.
yeah,
No, I thought, well, maybe I am. I don't know. Some of it seems. Maybe I'm just thinking of Trudeau or whatever.
yeah. Well, but then Trudeau's not Jewish, though, is he?
No, but he is
So of
liberal
course he'd
and
be against the Jews. Yeah, he'd be one of those on the left who's against the Jews. So, um, leading artists from the franchise who signed include Mark Bagley, Dan Jurgens, Dennis Cowan. Another name you probably seen on a like I know Dennis Cowan was a big part of the Static Shock series, and Amanda Connor, the celebrated artist behind Joker's girlfriend, Harley Quinn. As members of, quote, as members of the community of Batman writers and artists, we are contacting you concerning the young Batman fan who was taken hostage by terrorists and held in Gaza since last October 7th, said the creators, unquote. Quote, moved by the many anecdotes of Ariel's affection for the iconic character, who has become a symbol of hope and justice for so many, we implore your governments to exercise all possible leverage on Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad to immediately release the Bibas family and all the Israeli hostages from captivity, unquote, said the petition. So,
um,
so
Elk says is
I guess that's the picture of the family right there.
cool. Elk says Israel has utterly lost the favor of who who has they utterly lost the favor of liberals or I'm not sure what you're trying to say there. Elite liberals' opinion, increasing sympathy for individual hostages is a way of humanizing the conflict in Jews' favor.
In Jews' favor, yeah.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Yeah. All right, as we continue on here. Well, this definitely is amazing. Consider okay, I guess this is Avi speaking. Let's see, was there an? Oh yeah, there's Avi
And
speaking
hello,
again.
Tim.
Oh, Tim's here. Hey,
Tim's
Tim.
here.
Yeah. Is it? Because the Jews seem to be hated by libs. Again, I don't think it's all Jews. Tim, I think it's because I think Jewish liberals, of course, would not be as self-hating.
Yeah, that I think that's almost obvious,
Yeah.
he's talking for the most part. Probably any liberal that's not
Well,
Jewish.
as Elk pointed out, it's more like the
Yeah,
elite liberals. The
yeah.
non-Jewish elite liberals, the ones
Oh,
that. Go ahead, Tim.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Rick. Sorry.
Oh, I thought you were done. Just go ahead. I was going to say
Um.
something.
Well, the elite again the elite liberals who a lot of the more like academic liberals, the ones from like Harvard and Yale and basically stick their nose up in the air and basically think they know better than everybody else what everybody should be doing and behaving and all that. Um, if it isn't why if it isn't why didn't they allow pro-Palestinian protesters to disrupt a pro-Israel event? If it is, I mean. Hmm.
Yeah, and I was just going to say to Tim, Yeah, I didn't realize that you didn't have access to one Twitter account, so I was I wasn't following your new one till today. I don't know why I didn't follow before now, but maybe I just didn't realize. I don't know.
All right.
Anyways, well,
Getting back to the article here. Uh,
yeah,
well, this definitely is amazing considering how quite a few of these same creators, even the veterans, have taken such a lenient position on Islam in the past. And on that note, maybe it'd be a good idea to remind everyone why they still have fences to mend, and not just in the sense they've acted as apologists for the religion of peace in some way or other. For
yeah, and maybe
example,
that's another thing. I was gonna say maybe that's the thing to me that they maybe it is that they're not so anti-Israel, but too often they seem a little bit more pro-Islam.
hmm. For example, Levitz, when he was in charge of DC Comics, vehemently refused to greenlight Frank Miller's story that later became Holy Terror. Yet Levitz had no issue going ahead with a collaboration with the Kuwaiti publishers of a propaganda comic called The 99. Wade was once involved in the writing of the storylines that led to the Age of Apocalypse in X-Men, which drew a bizarre moral equation between Israel's officials and the PLO. Zdarsky's quite a woke leftist ideologue himself. He, as is writer Andrew Farago, the museum curator who attacked confiscate and blocks even Jewish ex posters who could support the hashtag.
Tim says
Jurgen,
to me, yeah,
what
I was
was
just
that?
saying, Tim says to me, just reading Tim's comment, and he says to me, yeah, it's still there. I just can't get into it. Laugh out loud.
Yeah.
Paraphrased a couple words, but I got the gist of it.
All right. Anyways, Jurgens once wrote an apologia tale for Islam in the pages of Superman, which is kind of ironic when you know who created Superman.
Yeah,
Superman was created by a Jewish duo of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. So
yeah.
as did Mike Grell in Iron Man during the early 2000s. And should it be mentioned, it's ludicrous and offensive how a lethal villainess like Harley Quinn is being depicted with a Jewish background. After all, chances they do something similar with a Muslim character are next to nothing.
I didn't know that they were trying to make Harley Quinn Jewish or partly Jewish.
Hmm. Well, because we're not, because I think we're not reading a lot of the more current stuff, right? We're focusing
Sure,
on the
sure.
past. The writers who signed onto Wyman Institute's petition, who do impress me more, are Chuck Dixon, Ann Nocenti, and even Steve Englehart. The latter two are leftists. Um, the latter, meaning the later, the two at the end there, Anne and Steve, I guess is who he's talking about there. To the best of my knowledge, but unlike a lot of modern ones, they seem to recognize the advantage of avoiding divisive statements on social media or otherwise. Now back to the article, I guess. No stranger to Batman lore, Madoff penned an essay for a book called, quote, Theology and Batman, unquote. One of the book's central themes is the Odyssey or sense of redemption Batman brings to the world by vindicating goodness over evil. Many of the creators of Batman, Superman, and other superheroes were of Jewish descent. Yes, and we've talked about that before too. I know RJ's has talked a little bit about it too. A number of those Golden Age creators we talked about were, now not all of them, of course, but many of them were of Jewish descent. Quite a few. Oh, go ahead, Rick.
Oh, just going to say, Tim says, seems like the libs are switching gears because of an election year. Elk is saying, Abby Green is playing the busted flush of Jewish liberalism. Classic American liberals believe Jews are a minority and therefore oppressed, therefore worthy of support. Huh? What up, dude?
Well,
okay, I guess
half
I think
when somebody puts half like that, I think it generally means that he basically he got to the character limit, and therefore is going to have to like continue it in another comment. So we should more of a comment here in the next moment or two. So that's what that means. When somebody writes one half like that or something like that.
Yeah, I was picking that up right after I said it. Yeah. Tim says, what makes no sense? Why do they allow anti-Semitism if they support Jews? Did I miss something? Well, just because depends on how you're doing it, I guess. I would say just because you don't necessarily support something Israel's doing doesn't mean you're anti-Semitic. It's more about if you hate them that it's anti-Semitic or promote thing. Just because you don't support Israel or whatever doesn't mean you would be anti-Semitic, at least in my opinion.
Well, Superman as an example, because Superman, when he made his debut in Action Comics #1, the guys who originally created him were Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who were both Jewish. And a number of the Golden Age comic creators were of Jewish descent.
But I think Kim wasn't here from the beginning of the article. I don't think. Tim, we're reading an article about these Batman people have done a bunch of stuff on Batman because this Israeli family plus others, but this one Israeli fan is a big fan of Batman, and they've been held hostage by
as a result of the October 7th attack, terrorist attack in southern Israel.
So they made up a petition. A bunch of them signed it to try and put some sort of pressure on the people who's holding them captive,
like from Egypt and Qatar,
to let them go.
All right, so this is the second half of what Elk was trying to say here. Progressives reject that liberal position, saying Jews are white oppressors and Israel is a white colonialism state. Avi Green is trying to have Harley Quinn have it both ways. Well, I don't know if it's Avi who's necessarily saying that. I don't think it's as much Avi saying that, oh, Harley Quinn's trying to have it both ways. I think he's just pointing out that there are people who are doing that. But I don't think it's coming from Avi as much. I think what he's just pointing out is that there are probably people who are creating Harley Quinn as trying to indicate that they're the ones who are actually doing it, not him and not he himself. So, anyways,
Yeah, it's hard to tell without knowing what they're actually doing with the character ourselves and recently with comics.
so anyways, back to the article here. Let's see. Yeah. Quite a few books and essays have been written about how these creators were influenced by Jewish history while at their drawing boards. Now back to Avi here. Yes, but whatever the background of the creators, those of more recent times aren't exactly helping matters. If the latter of these two examples says something. Um, so, and then I guess this is back to the article here. Earlier in 2024, an issue of DC's quote unquote The Penguin remembered that Bruce Wayne, Batman's alter ego, is Jewish. Um, I guess that must have been a newer thing because I don't ever remember him being big as Jewish.
Well, it does say in 2000 earlier in 2024. So in the last 4 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
Tim says, I think it's the typical lib switching position to avoid consequences. Possibly. It's hard to say.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, anyways, let's see. So, yeah. The moment came when Bruce Wayne referenced his handkerchief as being a Hanukkah gift from his father to his mother. In a quote unquote Batwoman reboot released in 2006, the character Kate Kane, Batwoman's alter ego, was reintroduced as a Jewish lesbian cousin of Batman, demonstrating how comic artists both shape and reflect their times. Yeah, because Batwoman originally was Catherine Kane, and she was brought in to serve as a love interest for Bruce to try to dispel the idea that he and Robin were a gay couple. That's why Catherine and Betty Kane were created.
And Kate Kane. Kate is, of course, short for Catherine as well.
Yeah.
Elk says, Avi Green claims Harley Quinn shouldn't be portrayed negatively because Muslims aren't, implying the progressive stance that minorities are special protected. It's okay to depict whites negatively. I don't think he says it's all right to predict anybody. I don't think he.
My general impression of Avi tends to lean right, if anything. Okay, that's been my impression of. I mean, I've been covering Avi's articles for a while now. My general impression is he tends to lean right to begin with, so I don't see him.
Yeah, well, obviously, I think Alk knows that he'd be more right leaning than left leaning. But with what was said there, I didn't get that picture that she's a villain, so she can definitely be portrayed negatively. I think it's more him saying that she's suddenly Jewish or whatever. This just comes out of nowhere in some ways. Or that I forget what it said exactly. I shouldn't. I'm not sure whether we have time.
I think it's interesting how this article is sparking such a conversation here.
Yeah. Actually, can we go back up for a minute to where it said about Harley Quinn?
Let me get this. Avi Green leans right, but he's not particularly consistent or even. Well, again, you have to. As I said, I've been covering his articles for a while. You said you wanted to go back up.
Yeah, just to where it said about the Harley Quinn thing. Just because I want to reread it because, although we just read it like a couple minutes ago, I want to make sure
What
that,
part? You mentioned Harley Quinn a
yeah,
couple. So what part?
Jurgens, okay, I think it was there. It said Jurgens, it said Harley Quinn there. We just passed it where it said about Harley Quinn. Where it was talking about Harley Quinn. So I think we got to go down a bit.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Jurgens once wrote an apologia tale for Islam in the pages of Superman, as did Mike Grell and Iron Man during the early 2000s. And should it be mentioned, it's ludicrous and offensive how a lethal villainess like Harley Quinn is being depicted with a Jewish background. After all, chances they'd do something similar to a Muslim character are next to nothing.
Yeah.
So I think
Oh, see, I think more what he's saying is they're willing to uh, create a Jewish background for a very bad villainess like Harley Quinn, although she's become more of a anti-hero in recent days. But they wouldn't do something like that with a villainess or a villain, giving them a Muslim background. But
mm,
it's possible that they might have in the past. I'm not sure.
yeah.
But again, there's something again making him a hero is Simon Baez, the one of the newer Green Lanterns, too. Making he's Muslim, they've made him a hero. Um, but uh, I agree that they probably wouldn't do that with a Muslim character. You know, make reveal that they're actually Muslim. No, I don't think he. I don't think he cares that she's being a a villain's being betrayed as a Jew. I just think he's. It's more like they have a double standard that he's
Yeah,
calling out.
that's what I'm thinking. In other words, they want to push the idea that again, and going back to what you were saying earlier, Elk. I think what Avi is pointing out is how because Jews are white, therefore they're not worthy of. They're not a they're not a minority worth protecting because they're white, whereas Muslims who are of a darker tone are worthy of being protected. That I think is like um, but now progressive crypto liberals claim Jews are white colonists. Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
that
true.
part. I
That's
think,
very true.
yeah. So, anyways, and they back to the article here, and they don't think this is even remotely insulting to the intellect. The King characters depicted as lesbian solely for woke brownie points, and implying Wayne could have some Jewish ancestry. In parentheses, in some past renditions, it was established that his ancestry was from Scotland. Um, yeah, parentheses there. Will not work if the writing is as woke as it's become lately. To imply Bruce is even bisexual only damages the character's image, and they had done that too, by the way. All the more, and is an embarrassment to Bill Finger and Bob Kane's legacy. Let us be clear: those writers and artists who joined Dr. Madoff's petition did the right thing. But unless they can prove they're repentant, and writers like Jurgens and Grell won't boomerang back on Apologia for Islam tomorrow, what good is this project going to do in the long run? And to this, the unlikely scenario, any of these creators will show the courage and altruism to work on the comics project tackling Islamic terrorism. And that's another frustrating issue right there. Besides
Yeah.
the above news, Dr. Madoff tells the Israel National News how Doonesbury cartoonist Gary Trudeau's acknowledged that Hamas is evil and mocked them in his newspaper strips. Um,
And Elk
Rick, were
says,
you about to
yes,
say
but
something?
I was just going to read Elk's latest comments. He says, yes, but the double standard is minorities are worth protecting, but whites are not. Well, Avi's not saying either way for that. He's just saying that, if you're willing to make, a Jewish person, a villainous, or make a villainous into a Jew, you should be willing to make them into a Muslim too. But the comics people would probably never do that. I think that's what he was trying to say, at least in my opinion. But yeah, but that is a double standard in society for sure. That minorities are worth protecting, but whites are not, especially nowadays.
Yeah. So,
Abby
anyways,
Green
actually,
or
this
Phil.
article is turning out to be
No,
longer than I thought it would be, but, but it's still pretty good.
yeah.
So, besides the above news, Dr. Made tells the okay. So, yeah, we actually did do that, and it's from that article, I guess. One of America's most beloved
Well,
newspaper comic strip. Go ahead, Rick.
J- Abby Green. He says Abby Green would fail a logic class. I probably agree with that for different reasons. He's implying it. So Harley Quinn has to be white. No, she doesn't have to be white. Obviously, she can be whatever.
Well,
But
yeah,
just
when Harley,
in all the depictions that I've seen of her up till now, I would never have thought that she was Jewish. And I guess she could have some background that nobody would
well,
know
yeah,
about.
okay, and let's
But
remind
and I
everybody.
would say, and I'd say the same of Batman as well.
Yeah, Harley Quinn
There's
when
lots of
she
characters.
was a
Sorry,
Harley
go ahead.
Quinn. Thank you. Harley Quinn was originally created on the Batman the Animated Series. She was actually created in the cartoon first, and she's always been depicted as kind of maybe a naive, if not kind of dumb blonde type character. So,
Well, I wouldn't
yeah,
say dumb because she's supposed to be a psychologist, but she becomes easily enamored with the Joker. Um,
right.
you know, uh, it's more the what's that medical term for when somebody falls for their captor or whatever, something to that effect, the Streisand
Stockholm
effect.
syndrome. Stockholm
Yeah,
syndrome. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, I think so. A form of Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah. So, well, I guess Alk is saying that Harley can't be um, a minority, as that is racist according to Avi. In our well,
That's
again,
not
I
what I
don't
get
think
at it
that's what
as.
I think he's pointing at. That's what they're arguing, not that he himself
Well,
is of that position.
well, no, I don't think he's even saying they're arguing that. I don't think he's arguing that. I don't think he cares one way or another whether they make her a minority. It's just I think he's more talking about the fact that they will do this to like make a character, that's evil Jewish because people don't mind predicting. A lot of society doesn't, mind either making the Christian evil or a lot of other ethnic background, but obviously they and they don't mind making a Jewish person evil, but now they would never do that to a character that's
Right.
make a
Okay.
character that's evil and Muslim.
To sum it up here, because I know Elk is saying Avi wants to claim Jews are a minority, or so shouldn't be portrayed natively. No, I don't think that's what he's saying. I think what he's saying is, if you're going to portray Jews negatively, then you should be able to equally portray Muslims negatively, and vice
Uh,
versa. That
uh,
and vice versa in terms. So that's what he's basically saying is you shouldn't just say one versus one should be portrayed natively and one shouldn't. I think what Avi is saying is you're going to portray one as such, then it's fair game to do the other. That's not necessarily a
yeah,
leap in logic there. That's just you're not reading the text. That's the clear implication of what he's saying. No, I don't. I don't
well,
agree with
no,
you there.
uh,
I
uh,
don't
uh,
agree with you there.
yeah, yeah, me either because we've obviously read it. You read it aloud. I was listening. I got you to go back up just to make sure I was, getting it right. Reread it. To me, that's not what he's
In other words,
implying.
Elk, what I feel, it sounds more like maybe you're putting your own personal bias
Yeah,
into
but
the situation, and
yeah, well,
that may be
yeah,
clouding your interpretation.
and you know what? It's also possible that might be what's happening with us. But let's not try and get too much into an argument over it. We're just reading an article. We're trying to have a friendly discussion. We don't want anybody, ticked off with each other or whatever. We
Yeah.
just want,
Actually, I do need to step away from the computer for a moment.
and, and it's
Things
just
are getting a little dim in here. I'll be right back, Rick. If
people
you want to.
different having, yeah. No, ask 10 readers what are you saying. Well, you got three of us here so far, and there's two of us that are saying that he's saying the one thing, and one saying he's saying another. I'm not sure whether Tim's still here. You could ask him what he thinks he's saying if he's here. And obviously, it's all everybody's interpretation, our opinion. You would obviously have to ask Avi himself what he means. And I'm not sure whether there's comments in the article or whether you can comment underneath the article on Bleeding Fool or not to ask him or reach out to him to ask him what he means exactly. But what else can I say? So I'm not even sure whether Tim's still here. Are you still here, Tim? And unfortunately, nobody else has come by to, I'd be more than willing to ask a few people. He's his inconsistent all over the place. Now he's complaining. No, that wasn't him. He's saying that these writers have done that. Uh, Not him or the Jewishness. Uh, his And his inconsistency is all over the place. Now he's implying Bruce Wayne might be bisexual is defaming when readers have
No,
implied.
that's not what he was implying. He's basically said that others have done that.
Yeah,
He himself
but
is not saying that.
when readers have implied Bruce Wayne have been bisexual since Robin showed up. Yeah, I won't say. I guess you could say readers, but I'm not sure whether readers or thing, um, or the company wanted to make sure. That's why they introduced, as Mike was saying earlier. That's why they introduced Batwoman from the get go, is to say that he wasn't that at all, bisexual at all.
Anyways, let's try to get through the rest of this article here. Um, One of America's most beloved newspaper comic strips has dared to poke fun at Hamas. Get ready for the controversy. Um, in the latest Sunday installment of the Pulitzer Prize winning Doonesbury strip, a fictional anti terrorist fighter known as the Red Rascal, in quote unquote, burst into the bedroom of an actual Hamas leader, Ismaili Haniyeh, who is living in Qatar. The cartoon shows Haniyeh enjoying luxurious accommodations and identifies him as, quote, one of these Hamas leaders worth billions who enrich themselves with donor money tended for impoverished Gazans, unquote. Gary Trudeau, the writer and artist of Doonesbury, has dared to acknowledge a fact about the Hamas leadership that most of the mainstream news media prefer to ignore. And I guess this is from that strip he's talking about here. What makes this Doonesbury strip even more interesting is that Trudeau has been strongly critical of Israel in the past. His view of Hamas is not motivated by any kind of built-in pro-Israel Israel bias. Not only that, but Trudeau has been extra sensitive concerning Muslim reactions to controversial cartoons, such as the one about Mohammed that was published in French satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo in 2015. Islamist terrorists responded to that cartoon by massacring 12 members of the magazine's staff. Trudeau accused Charlie Hebdo of engaging in quote unquote hate speech. He argued that the magazine's publication of the cartoon was unjustified because it constituted quote attacking a powerless, disenfranchised minority, unquote. But the Doonesbury creator can't count on any of his past statements to protect him from a furious reaction to his criticism of Hamas. Pro-Hamas extremists in the United States are not known for their ability to calmly and rationally discuss differing points of view, especially when somebody reveals uncomfortable facts about their heroes. Now, that's from the article that Avi is referencing. It is not
Avi
him
himself.
speaking at that point. So now we're coming back to Avi speaking, and I think I need to turn on my lights here. So I'm gonna step away one more time here for a moment to turn on my light in my room here. So I'll be right back.
This long article is longer than I was thinking it would be. I was not thinking this article would be that long or this long.
Yeah, and the fact we've had a pretty lively discussion about it too. uh,
Yeah,
I mean, we're already past the hour
yeah.
mark, so but
Oh, at the hour mark technically,
yeah.
but yeah.
But
Anyways,
maybe I should have
yeah,
started it right at the beginning, but you know, I didn't know it was going to be this long. Obviously, it's to be unfortunately expected. Islam's sympathizers will react poorly and horrifically. Why they could act the same way towards any and all of the above Batman contributors, and the two will be terrible if God forbid it happens. Um, of course, one must wonder at this point if creators like Trudeau are repentant for the harm they caused by blaming the victims in horrible incidents like that in France. If not, then while it's amazing on the surface he'd attack Hamas as the evil entity they are, any failure to acknowledge he was wrong to blame Charlie Hebdo and other victims of Islamofascism in France ruins everything. I do vaguely recall at least a few Doonesbury strips that were negative to Israel, and so it sure has taken Trudeau a lot of time to show the courage to acknowledge that jihadist organizations like Hamas and PLO are barbaric evil incarnate.
well, I'm gonna say, you can be critical of Israel because Israel is not perfect. They do things wrong too,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously, but Hamas probably does a lot more, from what I know. But I don't know enough about the Hamas thing, and I'm nowhere near defending them. I just,
Mm-hmm.
but they have a right to live too. But
Right.
they shouldn't be bombing Israel, and is usually Israel's defending themselves. Maybe they go a bit too far. I don't know enough about the situation to
Right.
speak in a lot of definites.
All right. So, anyways, back to the article. So far, if there's one notable name connected with Batman stories, who I couldn't find on the Wyman petition, it's Frank Miller. How odd! Is he really that stupidly regretful for penning Holy Terror back in 2011 that he doesn't have the guts to participate in a project like Madoff's now? Well, it's honestly disgraceful in my opinion. Come to think of it, when even far leftists like Kurt Busiek, Ron Mars, Dan Didio, Joe Quesada, Gail Simone, and Axel Alonso can't even contribute, that too has got to be saying something. This isn't just something that should involve Batman creators, but all sorts of comic creators. Even those more into independent productions. I'd strongly suggest Madoff try to contact them as well and try to convince them to put aside all their vehement leftism and recognize why the message he's sending here is important for all to uphold, not just anybody who worked on the mass manhunter. Well, I think the emphasis is on Batman because you had the kid, obviously the family where the kids were Batman fans. So that I think
Yeah,
is calling for releases of the hostages, many of whom have doubtless been subjected to torture and sexual violence, is surely the most important part of this whole tragedy. All right, so there we
yeah,
go with that one. So,
yeah. So I guess it's on to wrestling wrap up.
yeah, very quickly here too, because we're already past the hour mark here. So, anyway, so with that, just some quick WWE and AEW news, of course. On the WWE side of it, of course, it has been confirmed that starting, I guess, this Friday, Cody Rhodes will be officially a part of the SmackDown roster, as with him winning with him winning the WE and Universal titles. Those are the main titles. Now they do have the draft coming up soon, which may shake things up a bit. You could find him back on Raw. Maybe so, maybe yes, maybe no. But and also there was some reports that there might have been some heat on Liv Morgan for her attack on some legit heat. I'm not talking about kayfabe heat. I'm talking about legit heat for the attack on Rhea Ripley that ended up getting Rhea Ripley hurt to where she was forced to relinquish the Women's World Title. But everybody acknowledges that was a freak accident, and there's no legit heat on Morgan at this point. So on the AEW side of news, as they continue to prepare for this Sunday's Dynasty, on tonight's Dynamite on TV on TBS from the Indiana Farmers Coliseum in Indianapolis, Indiana. The night's going to open up with a mixed tag match between Adam Copeland and Willow Nightingale taking on House of Black members Brody King and Julia Hart. Now, this is also said to be the first match ever in which the TBS and TNT champions are in the same match together, as Julia Hart is the TBS champion and Adam Copeland is the TNT champion. In a six-man tag match, you have the Elite of AEW Continental Champion Kazuchika Okada and the Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, who will be in the finals of the tournament on this Sunday for the tag team titles. They'll be taking on the three-man team of Daniel Garcia, the Bastard Pac, and Penta El Zero Miedo. In a women's match, you have Deonna Purrazzo taking on Mariah May. Orange Cassidy takes on Shane Taylor of Shane Taylor Productions. In the main event, we'll see the Blackpool Combat Club's Claudio Castagnoli taking on the Don Callis family's Will Ospreay. As Will Ospreay will be taking on Bryan Danielson at this Sunday's Dynasty pay-per-view. So with that now, we will get ready. We'll get ready to hit up. Right. Today being Wednesday, April 17th, 2024.
This day in Neat history?
It's time for this day in Neat history. That's right, Rick. And I'm just see. 2019, 1974, 2004, and 1999. Okay, so the first off, I'm going to head back 50 years ago today. And on this date, 50 years ago today, back in 1974, Gene Kiniski and Mr. X would win the Vancouver version of the NWA Canadian Tag Team titles over Flash Gordon and Leo Madrill. On this day, 50 years ago today, Gene Kiniski and Mr. X would defeat the team of Flash Gordon and Leo Madrill for the Vancouver version of the NWA Canadian Championship. Back in these days, back in the territory days, some territories had they'd have their own Canadian title, they'd have their own United States title, world tag titles, etc. So that's why I'm saying it like that. So with that,
Cool.
we're getting ready to move on. Oh, go ahead, Rick.
I just said cool to the whole Canadian title thing.
All right.
Mike Walters says, "Hello, everybody."
The counter went down to zero watching, so that's why I did that. So, anyways, getting ready to move on to the next piece of niche history here. Going back just 25 years ago today, back to 1999. On this date, back in 1999, TMS Entertainment's Monster Rancher premiered on Japanese television, as well as in Japanese movie theaters, the movie Case Closed, The Last Wizard of the Century. And Shin-El Entertainment's Crayon Shinshan Explosion, The Hot Springs Feel Good Final Battle premiered in Japanese theaters as well on this date on 25 years ago today. So on this date, 25 years ago today, TMS Entertainment's Monster Rancher premiered on Japanese television. Also in Japanese theaters, TMS Entertainment's Case Closed, The Last Wizard of Century premiered, as well as Shin-El Entertainment's Crayon Shinshan Explosion, The Hot Springs Feel Good Final Battle. So with that, getting ready to move on to the next piece of niche history. Moving ahead to 2004. On this date in 2004, stars produced by the Plimptons and distributed through Stars Distribution, the adult animated horror romantic comedy film Hair High premiered in movie theaters by Bill Plimpton on this date back in 2004, 20 years ago today. It was a spoof on the late 1950s, early 1960s high school film. So on this date, 20 years ago today, the adult animated horror romantic comedy film Hair High premiered in theaters on this date in 2004. Finally, moving ahead to 2019, on this date in 2019, the 5th issue of Miles Morales Spider-Man went on sale on newsstands on this date 5 years ago today. Sold for $3.99. It was 28 pages. No title of the story, but it was written by Saladin Ahmed, with art by Javier Yaron, lettered by Corey Pettit, and colored by David Curiel. So, with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Okay, Rick, would you like to do an outro before we head out?
I'm good. I don't got my stuff handy to grab a link, so
Okay.
yeah. Everybody here
Well,
knows
with
who
that,
I am. So
of course, we'll be back here tomorrow night. We'll be going over the Indie Comics Showcase of Tim with me then. And it would appear that Rick is, I'm hoping he'll be back. And I guess he was out. But anyways, oh, there he is. Hopefully. Lost you there for a sec, Rick.
I guess I lost connection for a second there because StreamYard kicked me out.
Yeah, I saw that. But anyways, so I'll be back. We'll be back here tomorrow night. So we'll have Tim back for the next couple of nights here. Tomorrow night, we'll be doing the Indie Comic Showcase from Bleeding Full, and then we will be, of course, on Friday we'll be doing our weekly look back to comics history, looking back to February 1940 with books that went on sale. This week we'll be focusing in on Centaur. On Fawcett, actually. We did Centaur and David McKay last week, so we'll be focusing in on Fawcett. We'll be looking at Master Comics Volume 1, Issue 1. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye!